I'll talk about Paragon, since this is something that a lot of people have been asking me to do as a Tafo talk. Unfortunately, I got a little sick over Paragon. I have a little bit of fever, but I felt that there was more than enough to talk about that was interesting. So let's just go off the top. I'll talk about players, everything from players to logistics to everything in between. So this will be my potpourri of Paragon. So let's start off. Mango, he did win the tournament in very convincing fashion, going 3-2 over Mewtwo King in Grand Finals, and also 3-0'd him in Winners Finals. He also got revenge on Plup, who defeated him at EVO 2015. Pretty clean 2-0. We saw a nice double dip from Mango, and it was pretty interesting to see him go Falco the whole way. But fortunately, the character matchups for him didn't force him to really play Fox as well. The Fox is usually reserved for floaties such as Peach, Puff, and Ice Climbers. And so he got to focus on one character and just practice that alone during his warm-ups. I was very fortunate to play against Mango for a good hour before he had to play Plup. So for you Plup fans, I really apologize because in the beginning when I played Mango, it was actually pretty decently close. I wouldn't say I took any match, but from the get-go I could tell that he forgot how to pressure Sheik. So it was a lot of pressure that he was putting on me. He was putting me in shield, but he wasn't really getting the dividends that he was really looking for. And this is something that you see early on from Mango against Plup. And what happened was Mango's really just conditioning and really trying to read what Plup is going to do in different situations. So if he's on the ground, he's in shield, not on a platform. Is he going to do the nair out of shield? Is he going to roll? And once he began to figure out what Plup wanted to do out of shield, he began to predict the rolls. He began to bait the out of shields. He began to make Plup really uncomfortable in shield. And as a result, it opened him up pretty quick, and it opened him up more and more as the set progressed. So if you really watch the set, watch how Mango adjusts his shield pressure and how he begins to hit the shield once and then look out for these out of shield options and punish them greatly. So if you're a Falco main that's really complaining that shield pressure is not really working, you really have to look at getting them into shield and then kind of reading what they're going to do out of shield. What's also impressive about Mango is if you just really watch his SDI and just his decision making overall, it was very phenomenal. I just felt that he was really in his comfortable groove. It felt like he had his opponents for the most part in the grasp of his hands like little puppets, where he would force them to attack. You see this a lot in his set against Axe, where he sees that he's a little late on following up on dare combos. Pikachu from Axe ends up doing like tail spikes and aerials to break Mango's combo up. But then we got to see Mango adjust. Mango, baited Axe into doing a lot of preemptive hitboxes. It made Axe a sitting duck, and then Mango punished very hard. And so he looked really confident and really good. Now, as far as bracket goes, I'm not really super impressed by Mango's performance, mainly because he only had to defeat Mewtwo King twice. His two rivals, Leffen and Armada, and to a loose extent PP, he did not have to play to win the tournament. And this is something we'll see quite often with these major events where you have 4 to 5 of the big 6 members and maybe a good handful of the tier below, is that once in a while you have a very fortunate bracket where you just have to beat your strong matchups and you win because your opponents are taking care of everybody else that you may be weak against. And I'm not saying that Mango's weak against Hungrybox by any means, or because Mango has a really strong history against Hungrybox, but I felt that if he had to play Leffen and then Hungrybox, it may have been a little bit more work than simply going after Mewtwo King twice. Not saying that Mewtwo King is bad, but it would have been interesting to see if he had a more difficult route. Not to discredit Mango or anything. Mewtwo King, what can we say? He was probably the highlight of the tournament. And there were some interesting stats to put out. Now, his splits before and after SSBM Rank 2015 have been phenomenal. So before, he had a 1-9 record against the Big Six, a 10% win rate. Not very impressive. By all justifications, he did deserve 6 on the summer rankings. But but in recent Spotlight, after Super Smash Con, he has gone 4-2 against the Big Six. I might be getting that mixed up. Let's see. King has defeated Leffen multiple times. He's beaten Hungrybox, so he's beaten Leffen 3 times. Has beaten Hungrybox once. Lost to Mango twice, but overall 4-2. So that makes him 5-11 at a 31% win rate for all of 2015. Now, if people were to ask me over the span of 2015, would I change King's ranking? Probably not. 31% is a below average win rate when you compare it to everybody else, who's around 40 to 60%. But what I saw from King this tournament was a lot of grit. This is the first time he's defeated Hungrybox since Gommel, Get On My Level, which is all the way back in May 2014, over a year ago. And granted, Hungrybox did win the run back in losers. He has shown us at the very least he is capable of taking a set once in a while against Hungrybox. I'm not sure if it's a normative performance. I wouldn't put money on King if they were to play again, but it's to show that he's not an outright underdog. And this is also the first time that King has come back from a 1-2 deficit or worse against Hungrybox to take this set. 2 really nice comebacks on Dreamland. Had a nice 0-to-death combo on Hungrybox. Looked really confident against Leffen. Took a couple games off of Mango, but overall very impressive performance by King, and we can only hope that we see more from him. He has yet to win a tournament with 3 or more of the other Big Six members. This has never happened. The previous largest tournament in terms of other Big Six members was Big House 3, where he defeated PPMD and Hungrybox. So he tends to do pretty well when there's just one other Big Six member. But when there are multiple, unfortunately, he can't really study and practice for a specific matchup. He has to play multiple players, and so that's why we see the little falter. But overall, a very good performance from King. Very surprised, and I think we all were. Leffen, very big cold streak. He has, on one stretch before he won his one match on Dreamland, he had an 8-game losing streak on King. And right after Super Smash Con, we thought, wow, like Leffen has King's number. He has taken many sets since January. And he looked pretty dominant for most of the year. But now it looks like his play has slumped. A lot of careless old habits are coming back, and this may be a mix of burnout / fatigue / just bad decision making and a lack of practice. We saw careless desperation up smashes. We saw him in situations where he was trying to fight King on the ledge, whereas traditionally he would play back at Laser Camp and force King to come in. We saw him try to play the matchup as if he was 2013, 2014 Mango, where Mango stubbornly would, try to fight King on the ledge. Once in a while it would work, but he would get gimped very often, giving King some confidence and a boost in his reads. And once King started, getting some of those gimps on Dreamland, it kind of looked over for Leffen. He didn't really have much poise or grit. And this may, go into another Tafo talk where I believe that mindset, mentality, confidence, plays a large role into forming some sort of consistency. And I believe that consistency, if we look at the 2015 year, is what differentiates great players from good players. And even with the Big Six, we have seen off seasons from everybody except for possibly Armada, where we see one player do really well for a few months and then struggle for a few months. And this is where King is kind of peaking and Leffen's slumping. So when we look at the rankings in 2015, I really hope that people consider to look at the whole picture, that even though Leffen won 3 tournaments in a row, this could have been a really hot streak for him, and now he's going back to normative performances. And there's many factors to consider when 2 players play. If one player wins, maybe one player was playing really well, maybe the other player was playing really poor, or it could have been a combination of both. So I hope that we don't have knee-jerk reactions and say King is number 2 and like Leffen's like number 6 or 7. It's honestly, just looking at a couple tournaments, is a little bit early to tell, although Leffen has slumped for the 3 of the last 4 tournaments. By slump, he's just losing to the Big Six. He hasn't really had anything super bad, but brings up some questions. Hungrybox, really strange performance, and his loss against Professor Pro makes us really reevaluate, was Hungrybox playing bad, or is Professor Pro just playing really well? And it's tough to say, but at this point. If you want to be in the Big Six, those losses are a little bit inexcusable, but to make it up, Hungrybox had a monstrous run in losers, beating Ken, S2J, Fly, Shroom, Plup, Lucky, Leffen, and Westballs. That is a phenomenal run. You know, if he made it all the way, this would have been possibly one of the greatest loser bracket runs of all time. Maybe not quite the Pound 3 Mango level, but that is quite an impressive run that he made regardless, defeating multiple members of the top 10, defeating Leffen. Although he did almost lose to Ken, he did manage to pick up poise and pick up a stride through most of the tournament before losing to Mewtwo King. So pretty good performance from him. A pretty solid overall. Professor Pro is a very interesting name. Defeated Nintendo once again, making him 3-0 against the lovable Ice Climbers. It defeated Hungrybox, something that all the other Fox mains couldn't do that day. Now, it's kind of funny that the two people that he did beat in winners ended up making it to top 8, and he didn't. He narrowly lost to Lucky in a best-of-3 set, lost momentum, lost steam, but pretty impressive showing from the 4th best player in Europe. Nintendo, a person that barely did not make it to the top 25, makes us really reconsider what his placing is. He did have a bad performance at EVO, which is probably why people thought he didn't deserve top 25 after he lost to Connor. But he did beat S2J, SFAT, and Silent Wolf, 3 arguably top 15/20 players, so very good performance that he did. Now if we go along the other parts of the list, Westballs, Axe, and Plup, they did exactly how we expected, dominated the rest of the field, and then they lost to the Big Six, so they are, if there's ever a case to show that they are even more so in their own tier from 7 to 9, this is the tournament. We haven't seen anything spectacular from Axe or Westballs in a while. They seem to really just perform to what we expect them to do. We haven't seen any big surprises from them in a while since the days of Sandstorm and Mayhem earlier in this year, but they seem to hit a comfort stride of where we can evaluate them and where we could place them in the rankings. NorCal didn't do quite too hot this tournament. SFAT losing to 2 Luigis, and then I forget who he loses to in losers, but overall NorCal did not show up this tournament. Pew Pew lost to Fiction, who has largely been inactive, and then lost to Shroomed. And then Shroomed, unfortunately, had an early, bracket struggle where he had to play Hungrybox and losers for, I believe it was, I don't remember exactly, I think it was like 17th place. But fairly disappointing performances from NorCal. It seems like SoCal showed up pretty well. Florida showed up pretty well. Some disappointments here and there. 20GX, Wizrobe, and Gatsu. They've been making strides, but I really thought that Wizrobe was going to perform well at this tournament. And once again, we see another 25th place performance. Granted, he did lose to Shroomed and Essa, but considering the amount of hype that he gets, he's touted by many to say he's better than S2J, that he hasn't had the results that people have been wanting from him for nearly a year. So it's rather unfortunate. I love Wizrobe's play, but I haven't seen a good performance from him in any sort of major or national. He's done well at the smaller majors, such as like the FCs or the Foxes, and he does well at Florida tournaments, but we haven't really seen that quite translate yet into the larger scale tournaments. And so overall, very interesting levels of play overall, and this makes me even more excited for events like DreamHack, and it also makes me excited for events like HTC, which is coming in 2 weeks. I will be doing as many Tafo stats as I can in regards to HTC. They generously gave me a stipend, so hopefully I can get enough research so that I can continue to provide awesome stats for everybody. But overall, I just really loved what I saw from Paragon. I'm going to be rewatching a lot of these sets, and I'll be doing some match analysis even of what I really noticed about some of the players.